Happy English Day. Today we are going to discuss about the memory hierarchy. Before going to discuss about the memory hierarchy, so yesterday I asked you some questions. What are the questions? The first one, what is a remote machine? What is a remote machine? Okay, sorry. What is a remote machine? Tell me what is a remote machine and what is a remote login? These are the questions I asked you yesterday. What is a remote machine? And next, what is a remote network? And what is called as remote login? Right? Okay, I will give you the answer. First of all, for example, this is one block, block 1. Here a computer is available in first block. This is machine number 1. This is in block 1 in your college. Next, in a block 2, there is one more machine. Right? The person who is sitting in front of this particular computer in a block 1 is willing to log into the machine which is available in the block 2. Okay, the person who is sitting in block 1 is willing to access the system which is available in the block 2. Okay, such a type of login is called as remote login. Okay, through a network this person can able to access the information from this particular computer which is available in the block 2. Such a type of login is called as remote login. So usual, what is a login? For example, this particular person is willing to access the information available in the machine. So automatically what he will do? He will give some user ID and password. And this person can able to access the information. Why? Because the person is in the block 1 and the machine is in front of him, so that he can log into the machine and he can access the information. Whereas in the case of the computer which is available in the block 2 is nowhere visible to this person, right? So in such a manner, what he will do, he will connect to the remote network and he will access the information available in the machine which is in block 2, right? Such a type of network is called as remote network. That means the person can, with the help of remote network, the person can log into the machine which is somewhere in the world, right? Such a type of login is called as remote login, and such a type of user is called as remote user. What is the difference between remote user and the normal user? Usually now I am the normal user. Why? Because I am in front of my laptop and I am using my laptop. I am giving some password and username and I am logged into the system and I am now using the Paint, right? Whereas if I log into the machine which is available somewhere else by using a remote network, then I am called as remote user. At that particular moment of time, I am called as remote user. Such a type of login is called as remote login. To log into that particular machine, I need to use the remote network. Through a network, I can access the things. Do you understand the point? Do you understand the point? Who is a remote user? Remote user is an user who access the information from a system which is available somewhere else in the world. The remote user can log on to the machine which is available other than his place, right? So how can he log into the machine? He log into the machine remotely. That is the reason why he is called as remote user, and such a type of login is called as remote login. In your Unix, there is a topic called R login. R login is used for remote login. Okay, we no need to go to that particular system place, and we no need to feed the information by sitting in front of the computer. Anywhere else we can be, and we can access to the system through the network. Okay, so for that purpose we need to connect to the machine remotely, and we need to give your user ID and password, and we can access the machine from that particular moment of time once we log into the machine. Okay, this is not related to your operating system concept, but I need to explain it. Yesterday we have a word like remotely, right? Remote machine, right? So that is the reason why. And when we are communicating to the machine, the machine, a process in this particular machine. For example, this is one machine and another machine is there. There is only another process. This process can communicate with this process. They are connected to the normal network or a remote network. So that is the reason why I explained you that topic. And now we are going to discuss about memory hierarchy. Memory hierarchy, right? First of all, how many memories do you know up to now?
Two types.
What are those?
Primary memory and secondary memory.
Okay, right. So likewise, we have so many. Which memory is the CPU can accessible? Which memory is accessible to CPU?
Primary memory.
Right. And next, when we store something, where it will be stored?
Secondary memory.
Right. So this is the memory hierarchy: registers, and then cache, and the next memory is the main memory. And the next one is electronic disk. And the next one is magnetic disk. And the next one is optical disk. Devices. Magnetic tape, right? So these are the memories which are available in our computers. The first one is a register, and the second one is a cache, and the next one is a main memory, and the electronic disk, magnetic disk, optical disk, and magnetic tape. So if we divide this particular hierarchy into two parts, the information can flow from one memory to another memory. That is the reason why it is bidirectional. Right? So So these first three things, registers, cache and main memory. Up to this part, the CPU can access the memory which is, the CPU can access the information which is available in the registers, cache or in the main memory, right? And the next four things, these four things are comes under secondary memory, right? So because of that reason, CPU cannot access the information available in the secondary memory directly. Have you got my point? So this is called as a memory hierarchy. The first three things, registers, cache and CPU, are accessible to the CPU, and CPU cannot access the information which is available in the electronic disk, magnetic disk and magnetic tape. Why? Because these four things are comes under the category of secondary memory. So secondary memory is not accessible to the CPU, as you know, right? So this is the first point you need to understand from this diagram. And the next what you need to understand is, if you observe the size of the blocks, if you go to the register, registers are small in size. If you observe this particular box size also, you can able to understand what I am trying to convey to you is, right? So here the registers are small in size, and when compared to registers, the cache is little bit more when compared to registers, and then the main memory is little bit more in size when compared to the registers and cache. And next, electronic disk is much more capable to store the information when compared to main memory, cache and registers, like fashion. So when we come from register to cache, the size will be increased from top to bottom. Size increases when we move from top to bottom. Size increases. Size increases when we come from top to bottom. This is the first point you need to understand. What is the next point? By observing the diagram, you can say that the size increases when we move from top to bottom. So all of you please mute your devices. All of you please mute your devices, right? Size increases when we move from top to bottom. And next, what the next point you need to understand by seeing the diagram? CPU can access the first three things, whereas CPU cannot access the last four things. Why? Because the first three are comes under the devices which are near to CPU. For example, if you go to registers,
Ma'am, కొంచెం వాయిస్ రైజ్ చేయరా?
okay. Is it audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So if you talk about speed and access, that means accessing speed. Access speed is increases from bottom to top, right? Size increases from top to bottom. Need to understand this one. When we come from top to bottom, the size of the memory increases, whereas when we go from bottom to top, the accessing speed will be increased. Okay, so this is about the diagram, right? And next we need to know about the individual memory. here all the remaining parts we no need to talk about secondary memory. Why? Because there are the permanent storage devices. Secondary memory is a permanent storage area. That means whatever the information we stored in the electronic disc or magnetic disc or optical disc, or it may be a magnetic tape, so it will be available forever. That is the reason why secondary memory is a permanent storage area. Okay. And next, coming to main memory. So whenever you want to run something, we need to keep the information to the main memory. For example, if you want to run P1, P1 is initially available in the secondary memory. If you want to run the P1, we need to load the P1 from secondary memory to main memory. So now the P1 is available in the main memory so that CPU can run the process. That is what you know up to this particular point, right? So what about the cache memory and what about the register? That is what we need to understand. Okay. First, I would like to explain you about the registers. What is a register? Wait a minute. I will start from here. So what is a register? Registers are in the CPU. Where the registers are available? Registers are available in the CPU, right? As they are very near to CPU, so accessing speed is high. Accessing speed is high. And next, what is the problem with the register? So registers can hold very less amount of information. Very less amount of information. For example, it may hold just an operand value. The register can hold just an operand value. What is an operand? For example, internally, for example, you want to perform A plus B, this operation, and you want to store it in the C. This is the instruction you want to execute. This is the instruction you want to execute, right? So in order to run this particular statement, CPU requires A value and B value, and CPU need to perform arithmetic operation. Why? In order to perform the arithmetic operations, CPU will take the help of ALU. ALU means arithmetic logic unit. Okay. Arithmetic and logic unit will perform all the arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction and all, right? So apart from this, so A value, B value we require to run the statement. So where the A value and B value are available, so in order to execute this particular one, so the statement will be converted like R3 and next R1 plus R2. When you write the statement in a program, automatically it will be converted like this. This is called as register notation. Register notation. Right? So what happened? For example, A equal to 10 and B equal to 20. So whenever this particular statement converts like this, automatically A value will be shifted to loaded to R1 and B value is loaded to R2. Now the value of R1 is 10 and the value of R2 is 20. Here what is R1 and R2? They are registers. Where the registers are available? Registers are in the CPU, right? So then automatically whenever the values are available in the registers, automatically the addition operation will be performed with the help of ALU, as I told you, arithmetic logic unit, which is available in the processor. R1 plus R2 means 10 plus 20, 30. So once the operation done, the value will be loaded from R3 to, loaded to R3. Now the value of R3 is 30. So from the registers where we need to transfer the information, so the 30 value need to be stored in C. So automatically, whenever the value available in R3, that value will copy it to C. Why? Because finally we require A plus B, and then we want to print the value of C, right? Like that, from R3, the value will be loaded to C. So automatically, whenever we type an instruction like C equal to A plus B in your computer, C programming, so automatically what happened? 2 bytes of memory is allocated to C, and 2 bytes of memory is allocated to A, and 2 bytes of memory is allocated to B. Are you got my point? So why?
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
this is the program, void main, and then int A comma B comma C. These are the values. Let me give the values to the int A equal to 10 comma B equal to 20 and then C, right? After that, what you need to do? C equal to A plus B, and then you want to print the C value. So for example, this is the program you want to run, right? So whenever you want to run this particular one, so whenever this particular statement encounters, what happened? A is an integer, B is an integer, and C is an integer. So integer means 2 bytes of memory is allocated to A, and 2 bytes of memory is allocated to B, and 2 bytes of memory is allocated to C, right? So whenever 2 bytes of memory is allocated to C, automatically what is the value of A? 10. This 10 value is stored in the memory which was allocated to A. That means మనం A కి 2 bytes of memory allocate చేసాం కదా, ఆ మెమరీలో ఈ 10 value store అవుతుంది. Likewise, B value is 20. So we allocate 2 bytes of memory to B. So automatically this 20 is available in the memory location which was allocated to B, right? Likewise, for C also we have allocated some memory. That memory location is now it is empty. Why? Because initially we are not assigning any value to C up to this particular statement. We are not assigning any value, right? So after that, what we need to perform? C equal to A plus B. So this statement will be converted like R3 and next R1 plus R2 times to R3. So R1 plus R2 means A value will copy it to R1. A value will be copied to R1 and B value is copied to R2. So automatically R1 value is 10 now and R2 value is 20 now. So 10 plus 20 means 30. That value will be transferred to R3, loaded to R3. From R3, we need to load from register R3 to C. C means C is a integer variable. It can hold integer values. So automatically 2 bytes of memory was allocated to C, so that this 30 will be copied into the memory location which is already allocated to C. So whenever we want to print value C, automatically it will be printed by taking the value from that memory location onto the screen. Is it clear to you all? So here A, B, C, all these three things are called as operands. Operands. That means a register can hold an operand value only. And the registers are such a small in size, it can hold operand. Okay. So here A, B, C are operands. Here A, B, C are operands, right? A plus B. No, A is operand and B is operand. C is also an operand. Whereas plus is called as operation. These two are operands, right? Registers can hold only operand values. Registers are small in size. That is the reason why in the diagram also we have given a small size for the registers. Okay, the first point you need to understand is registers can hold only operand values. That is the first point. That is the first point. Registers can hold only operand values. And the next point what you need to understand is, as they can hold only operand value, they are very small in size. Very small in size. Otherwise, I will go to one more page. So coming to registers, first registers are available in CPU. So as they are available in the CPU, accessing speed is high. Okay, means normal speed, not accessing speed. Accessing speed is very high. Why? Because they are in the CPU. And next point what you need to understand is, they can hold. Please mute yourself.
అనవసరంగా మాట్లాడదు ఆలిగట్టిన వాడి నేను నా ఇష్టం ఆ రోజు అమ్మాయితో నిశ్చితార్థానికి ఒప్పుకుంది ఊరికే కాదు ఆ పెద్ద మనిషి ఊళ్ళో పలుకుబడి ఎక్కువ నేను రాజకీయాల్లో ప్రజలంటే నాకు పలుకుబడి అంటే కావాలి అందుకే ఒప్పుకున్నాను ఆ పెద్ద మనిషి చచ్చిపోయాక ఆ పలుకుబడి నాకు తెలిపడి అవుతుందయ్యా డబ్బుంటే పలుకుబడి అదే వస్తుంది అందుకే సంబంధం మార్చుకున్నాను నేనేం అమ్మాయి మీద పోతుపడి నిశ్చితార్థాన్ని ఒప్పుకోలేదు వెయ్యుడెత్తయ్యా ఈ ఊళ్ళో పెళ్ళంటూ జరిగింది మన ఊరి
Right? Registers are available in the CPU. Accessing speed is very high and they can hold operand values. They can hold operand value. And next, what is the size? The size is very small. As they are holding only operand values, the size is very small. Okay. And then next point what you need to understand is, as the registers are very near to you, so near to CPU, the accessing speed is very high. And next, coming to cost is very high. So these are the points you need to understand. Registers are available in the CPU, accessing speed is very high and they can hold operand values, and the size of the registers are very small and the cost is very high. Why the cost is very high? They are available in the CPU and they are very speed. That means we can access the information from the registers in a fast manner. So that is about registers. And next, coming to cache. So what about cache? So frequent information, frequently used information. Frequently used information will be kept in the cache. Usually, frequently used information will be kept in cache. What is called as a frequently used information? So whatever the instruction we are using frequently, those instructions are kept in the cache. Okay. So for example, in your home, there is a kitchen. This is your stove, right? What your mother will do? Your mother will keep salt in small container, sugar in some other container, small container, and next turmeric powder in small container, mirchi powder in the small container. Why? Because she require all these things frequently. That is the reason why she keep some items near to her, right? Salt, and then sugar, and then mirchi powder, and then turmeric powder, right? So all these things are regularly and frequently used by your mother. That is the reason why she keep all those things in the small containers near to her, right? So for example, whenever there is no salt in this small container, what your mother will do? Your mother will go to the rack. Your mother to go to the rack where in the big containers are available in your home. In those big container, again small sugar, salt, and the mirchi powder and the turmeric powder is available in the big containers. Once the salt is finished in the small container, automatically your mother will go to the big container and take some part, takes small that means what you called and a small pot, otherwise some part of this salt will be moved from this big container to small container. Okay, some portion, otherwise some portion of salt will be moved from big container to small container. Likewise, if the sugar is over in a small container, automatically your mother will go to rack, and from big container to small container some portion of sugar will be transferred. Likewise, whenever there is no sugar and no salt near to her, he will move to the big containers and she will take the item from the big containers. Okay. Likewise, Kashi is also work like the same concept. That means whenever there is a need and that instruction is not available, the instruction what we require now is not available in the cache, right? At that particular time, what we need to do in the small container, if the salt is over now, where your mother will go? Your mother will go to the big container, which is also available in your home. That is what you need to understand, which is also available in your home. And next she will collect the item from the big container and she will keep the same into the small container. So likewise, whenever an instruction is required to CPU to run, CPU first it will check in the cache. Okay, if the instruction is available in the cache, then it is called as cache hit, right? If the instruction is not available in the cache, then it is called as cache miss, right? So cache can hold frequently used information. Okay, that is the first point you need to understand. If the instruction is available in the cache, then it is called as cache hit. And next, if the information is not available in the cache, then it is called as cache miss. At that time, what we have to do? We need to take the information from the main memory. We need to take the information from the main memory, and that instruction will be copied to cache for the further use. ఇక్కడ కూడా అంతే కదా మనం చేస్తుంది. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇక్కడ షుగర్ లేదు, ఇక్కడ షుగర్ అయిపోయింది. అప్పుడు మీ మదర్ ఏం చేస్తున్నారు? యువర్ మదర్ వెంట్ టు ద ర్యాక్ and she will collect the salt from the big container and she will keep the same in the small container again. Like that fashion, whenever there is an instruction required to the CPU will access the instruction from the cache itself. If the instruction is available in the cache, then no need to go to the main memory. Here also, if the salt is available in the small container, then we no need to go to the big container, which is available in the rack, right? Similarly, if there is a instruction required, then the CPU will first check in the cache. If the instruction is available in the cache, then it is called as cache hit. and CPU execute that instruction. If the instruction is not available in the cache, then it is called as cache miss. Cache miss means instruction is not available in the cache. At that particular moment of time, the instruction is moved from main memory, that means copied, not moved, copied from main memory to cache, and then it is accessible to CPU. That is what happened, right? One more doubt. Even if the
Once it miss, ma'am.
even if the for example the sugar, if you want to go for the sugar is not available here, small container, where you need to go? You need to go to the big container. It is also available in your home. So if the sugar is not available in the big container too, so automatically what happened? We need to go to the market, right? So from the market we need to purchase, and we need to take whatever the items we require from the market, and again we will keep the things in the big containers, right? This market is called as secondary memory, maybe. Why? Because it is not accessible to us. We need to go outside and we need to collect the things. So by this also we can able to understand. So accessing the information from the market, bringing the items from the market is much time taking, and then moving to the rack will take much time, whereas taking the item from the small containers which are near to you is consumes very less time. Are you understand my point? Are you understand my point? Right? So whenever the information or instruction is available in the cache, it is called as cache hit. The instruction which is required is not available in cache, then it is called as cache miss. Actually have, why you are always unmute yourself? I didn't get you. Whenever there is a need to so please mute yourself, right? Otherwise, it will be time consuming for me to mute you all. What is the need of unmute yourself? There is no need of your voice, right? My voice is only required. And your third year students, not the LKG or UKG students. So whenever you join into the Zoom, what is your responsibility? What is your role? Just you need to listen to the class. Whenever there is a need of answering to my question, at that time you need to unmute yourself. From the tomorrow's class, it is my strict instruction to you all. Please mute your devices. Okay? The people who are willing to listen to the class can able to come to the class. Right? Of course, there is no separate room in your home. I can understand the situation. But what you need to do, my voice need to be audible to you. Your voice no need to be audible to me, right? So at that particular moment of time, all of you need to mute yourself. Whenever there is a need, when I ask you a question, at that time, you unmute yourself and answer me, and then again you need to mute yourself. That is a simple logic all you people are failed to do. I cannot understand what happened exactly. And next, attendance will be considered. For the attendance only, that is the only purpose in order to attend to the online classes. It might your idea, it is very foolish idea. For the only attendance, your listening to the class is not a good idea. Not at all good idea. Right? If it is for only attendance, go and ask your lectures. Please provide us attendance. We don't want to listen to the class. right? And next, I don't want to hurt you, and this is for your benefit only. What is the problem you cannot understand? Even for my class, one student attend, I don't have any objection. I can deliver the entire class for the single person. But what is my problem? What my problem is, for example, if you are making noise now, so now I am giving all this bullshit to you all. This particular time is waste to the people who are really interested towards the class. That is my problem. And next, online class is not for sharing for the Zoom lecture. That means how Zoom will work, how we need to mute, how we need to unmute. My class is not intended for that. My class is for operating system lecture, right? Why should I explain all these things to you? It is none of my business, right? And next, my daughter age is 9 years, right? The doors are open now. Still she is not coming to the class. Still she is not disturbing the class. Even she is sitting beside me and listening to the class. I'm not exaggerating. She is studying now 4th class. So their faculty make her to do like that, right? అట్లీస్ట్ వాళ్ళ మేడమ్స్ చెప్పినట్టు ఈ ఏజ్లో మీరు మాట్లాడొద్దమ్మా, మీరు కదలకుండా ఉండాలి, మ్యూట్లో పెట్టాలి, మేము చెప్పింది వినాలి అంటే దర్ ఏబుల్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్. నౌ యు ఆర్ బీటెక్ స్టూడెంట్స్, రైట్? She can understand at what extent I can use my Zoom app, but you are not able to understand. That is a pathetic thing we need to discuss in the day of Indian East. Right? From the next class onwards, people who don't want to listen to the class, no need to attend for the class. If you are willing to access the class, then what you need to do? You need to mute yourself and then attend the class. And it is attendance is important for you at the time also. You can mute your device and then you can go for the chit chat and you can go for the other important things and you can come back after the class. Just mute your device and keep aside. And most of you are doing like that only, right? I know. Start the class, join to the class, mute your device and keep your mobile device someplace and move to some other place for the chit chat and all. Right? అలా మీరు క్లాస్ మొత్తం మ్యూట్లో పెట్టేసి మొబైల్ డివైస్ పక్కన పెట్టేయచ్చు కదా, అటెండెన్స్ ఆటోమేటిక్గా వస్తుంది. అటెండెన్స్ కోసమే క్లాస్ అయితే. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ వన్ మోర్ ఫూలిష్ ఐడియా ఈస్, ఈ క్లాసెస్ అన్ని రికార్డ్ చేయాలి, ఆ రికార్డ్ మీకు ఇవ్వాలి. అప్పుడు రికార్డ్ ఆల్రెడీ ఉంటుంది కదా, మళ్ళీ క్లాస్ వింటాం ఎందుకు? అప్పుడు ఎప్పుడో రికార్డ్ వినొచ్చు కదా. కానీ దానికి డిఫరెన్స్ ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు మీరు రికార్డ్ చేసేసి తర్వాత విన్నప్పుడు మీరు ఏదన్నా అప్పుడు నేను చెప్తున్నప్పుడు మీకు డౌట్ వస్తే అడగడానికి ఉండదు. అదే ఇప్పుడు ఆన్లైన్లో నేను చెప్తున్నప్పుడు మీకు డౌట్ వచ్చింది అనుకోండి, యూ కెన్ ఆస్క్ మీ ద క్వశ్చన్. Okay, let me explain. Instructions are available in the cache, right? What instructions are available in the cache? Frequently used information is available in the cache, right? So why we need to keep frequently used instructions in the cache? Why? Because as you know, after the registers, cache is the next memory. Cache is the next memory location, next memory in the hierarchy. So registers are small in size. After the registers, cache is there in the hierarchy. So cache is much, that means not much, little big in size when compared to registers. That means cache can hold little more information when compared to register. Right? So only caches can hold instructions. But whereas in the case of registers can hold only operands, A, B, C, like that operand values only we can store in the registers. But in the cache, we can store instructions. As it is small in size when compared to main memory, so registers and cache can hold operands and the instructions, not much information. We cannot store much information to the cache, right? And next, cache is very near to CPU. Very near to CPU. సో మీకు ఆల్రెడీ చెప్పాను కదా, స్మాల్ కంటైనర్స్ అనేవి మీ మదర్కి నియర్గా ఉంటాయి. సో దే ఆర్ వెరీ నియర్. సో మీ మదర్ ఫాస్ట్గా సాల్ట్ అవి షుగర్ అవి కావాల్సినవి ఈ స్మాల్ కంటైనర్స్ నుంచి తీసుకుంటారు, ఫాస్ట్ యాక్సెసింగ్. లైక్ దట్ సిపియుకి చాలా నియర్గా ఉంటుంది అనమాట క్యాషీ. క్యాషీ ఈజ్ వెరీ నియర్ టు సిపియు. దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ వై CPU can access the information from cache in a fast manner. Okay. Sometimes some instructions are not available in the cache what required by the CPU. So at that time, so what exactly happened, from main memory the instructions are copied to cache. If the required information available in the cache, then it is called as cache hit. If the instructions what we require are not available in the cache, then it is called as cache miss. Are you got my point? That is about cache. Is it clear? And next one more point is, I want to run this particular instruction, a equal to a plus 1. In order to execute this particular instruction, what value do I require? I require a value. So for example, initially the where we need to take the a value from the register, right? First we need to check in the register. If the information is not available in the register, we need to go to the cache. If it is not available in the cache, we need to go to the main memory. If the information is not available in the main memory, and then secondary memory, that means disk, right? So at that time, a is loaded from secondary memory to main memory, and then from main memory to it is copied to cache memory, and then from cache to register, and then registers are accessible to CPU. Finally, CPU will perform a equal to a plus 1. That means increment operation. It will be done by the ALU. As it is an arithmetic operation, it will be done by the ALU. That is the procedure, right? That is the reason why first registers are available, and then cache, and then main memory, and then secondary memory devices. What are the secondary memory devices? Electronic disk, and then magnetic disk, and then optical disk, and then magnetic tape, right? These 4 things are secondary memory. Secondary memory is a permanent memory. That means whatever the information available in the secondary memory is available permanently till we delete the things. Whenever we delete the things wantedly, then only they are removed from the secondary memory, right? And next one more point what you need to understand. So they can hold large amount of information. Secondary memory devices are very large in size. That means they can hold large amount of data, more data. They can store more data, right? And then coming to main memory. Main memory is a temporary memory. That means whenever we turn off the computer, or whenever there is a power failure, automatically whatever the information available in the main memory will be erased. And next, under the main memory, we have 2 types of memory. One is the RAM, and the second one is ROM, random access memory. So whenever you want to run the computer, automatically the OS will be loaded into the RAM, and all the programs P1, P2, like that, all the process what we want to run, they will be moved from secondary memory to main memory. So RAM means random access memory. And next coming to ROM. What is ROM? ROM means read-only memory. Read-only memory means in the read-only memory, usually booting program will be available. Booting program will be available in the ROM. So ROM is a permanent again. ROM is permanent memory, right? So whenever you turn on your computer, automatically this booting program will be executed internally, and it will be responsible for the booting program. The booting program will be responsible for loading your operating system from secondary memory to main memory, right? So whenever you turn on your computer, every time you need to load the operating system from secondary memory to main memory. So booting program is the first program run your computer. So before you run the computer, before you turn on your computer, the booting program need to be in the main memory before you turn on your computer. So then only whenever you turn on your computer, this program will be executed. That means the program need to be always available in the main memory. But as you know, main memory is a temporary memory, right? If it is temporary, whenever you turn off your computer, automatically erase అయిపోతుంది. Did you got my point? So booting program అనేది ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ని సెకండరీ మెమరీ నుంచి మెయిన్ మెమరీకి లోడ్ చేస్తుంది అనుకున్నాం. ఇప్పుడు ఈ బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ అనేది మెయిన్ మెమరీలో ఉంటుంది అని చెప్పాను. ఓకే, మెయిన్ మెమరీ అనేది టెంపరీ మెమరీ. బట్ టెంపరీ మెమరీ అయినప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, ఆటోమేటిక్గా మనం టర్న్ ఆఫ్ చేస్తే ఈ బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కూడా ఎరేజ్ అయిపోవాలి కదా. అలా ఎరేజ్ అయిపోతే మనం కంప్యూటర్ని యూజ్ చేయలేం నెక్స్ట్ టైం, సెకండ్ టైం నుంచి. ఎందుకంటే మళ్ళీ సెకండ్ టైం నుంచి బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కనుక మెయిన్ మెమరీలో లేకపోతే ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ని ఎవరు లోడ్ చేస్తారు? సెకండరీ మెమరీ నుంచి మెయిన్ మెమరీకి, డిస్క్ నుంచి మెయిన్ మెమరీకి ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ లోడ్ చేయడానికి బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఉండదు అప్పుడు ఎరేజ్ అయిపోతే. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ వై the main memory have two things. One is a RAM and the second one is ROM. So ఈ ROM మెమరీలో మనం ఈ బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ని ప్లేస్ చేస్తాం అన్నమాట. ఓకేనా? సో ఇది పర్మనెంట్ మెమరీ. ఇట్ ఈస్ a కాస్ట్లీ మెమరీ, పర్మనెంట్ మెమరీ, రైట్? వెరీ స్మాల్ ఇన్ సైజ్. దాంట్లో మనం ఈ బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ని ప్లేస్ చేస్తాం. సో అప్పుడు ఆటోమేటిక్ ఇది పర్మనెంట్గా ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి సిస్టంలోనే టర్న్ ఆఫ్ చేసినా టర్న్ ఆఫ్ చేయకుండా ఎప్పుడు అది పర్మనెంట్గానే ఉంటుంది, ఎరేజ్ అవ్వదు. సో అప్పుడు ద బూటింగ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఈజ్ రెస్పాన్సిబుల్ ఫర్ లోడింగ్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ ఫ్రమ్ సెకండరీ మెమరీ టు మెయిన్ మెమరీ. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్. సో డూ యూ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ డౌట్స్? Do you have any doubts regarding this storage hierarchy, memory hierarchy, or let me know. If you have any doubts, I can clarify the things for you. Okay, you can chat. Okay, no doubts. Okay, I will share you the material today. So I will send to your faculty coordinator so that you can go through the material. Okay, mostly half an hour time will required to complete the first unit so that we can start the second unit. Okay, and next, not only to my class. So whenever you want to attend any of the online session, you need to mute yourself. We can mute your devices too, but the thing is, anyone are willing to ask me a question, at that time you need to chat. It consumes some time in order to type, but whereas if it is a voice, you can able to communicate in a faster manner, so that time will be better consumable, right? That is the reason why I don't want to mute all devices. So as it is a licensed version, we can mute all your devices, right? But from first class onwards, I don't want to mute your devices, because if anyone are interested to ask me the question, at that particular moment itself, they can ask me the question. such a type of interactive session I require from you. That is the reason why I don't want to mute all the devices.
హలో మేడం
చెప్పండి
మేడం
చెప్పండి.
మేడం మీరు మ్యూట్ చేయండి మేడం, మాకు డౌట్స్ వస్తే మేము హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేస్తాం.
ఓకే ఓకే అమ్మా. ఓకే, అసలు అంత అంత టఫ్ ఎందుకమ్మా మనకి? మీరు హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేయడం, నేను హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేసి చూసి ఎవరు ఏంటి, ఇప్పుడు మీరు హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేసినప్పుడు ఏది డౌట్ అనేది తెలియదు కదా. ఇప్పుడు మీరు వాయిస్ ఉంది, మీరు చెప్పారు, ఇప్పుడు క్లియర్గా ఉంది కదా. నేను అంటుంది ఏంటంటే వెన్ ఎవర్ యూ వాంట్ టు పార్టిసిపేట్ ఇన్ ఆన్లైన్ క్లాస్, స్టార్టింగ్లోనే మీరు ఇక్కడ ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుంది కదా, దీన్ని మ్యూట్, ఇలా మళ్ళీ మీరు దాన్ని ప్రెస్ చేసినప్పుడే కదా అది అన్మ్యూట్ అవుతుంది. అసలు మనకి వాడితో పనే ఉంది. ఇంకా మనం జాయిన్ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత జస్ట్ డైరెక్ట్గా క్లాస్ వింటమే కదా, ఆప్షన్స్తో మనకి పని లేదు కదా, అది నేను అంటుంది. సో మీకు ఎప్పుడైతే అన్మ్యూట్ చేసి పెట్టుకోండి, ఎప్పుడైతే మీ క్లాస్ రిక్వైర్ ఉంటుందో, అంటే మీకు డౌట్ ఎప్పుడైతే వస్తుందో అప్పుడు మళ్ళీ మీరు ఆప్షన్స్లోకి వెళ్ళిపోయి అన్మ్యూట్ చేసేసుకోండి. ఇనిషియల్గా మ్యూట్ పెట్టుకోండి, అది బెటర్ ఆప్షన్ కదా, అందుకని నేను చెప్తున్నాను. సో విల్ చెక్ ఇన్ ద నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్. ద థింగ్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ done hopefully, then we go for the mute all. So obviously I already tried to mute you all. So here I will go for the mute you all now. So I can mute. So allow participant to unmute themselves. So నేను no చెప్పేస్తున్నాను ఆల్రెడీ. సో యూ కెనాట్ అన్మ్యూట్. సో నేను అట్లా మ్యూట్ ఆల్ చేసినా కానీ చూడండి ఇక్కడ 523 అది అన్మ్యూట్ అవ్వలేదు. So all the things are okay. All the participants, for all the participants, that is my doubt. Who is 523? 523 unnadu. If we observe here, I cannot mute here, right? So if I go for the mute all, so all participants to unmute themselves. I don't want to allow you unmute themselves on your own. So even if we click no also, it's not working, right? Okay, ma. I want to stop here.